Welcome to the DevOps training by Study9.com. Thank you for joining our session. In this particular initial topic, we will first look at what DevOps is. But before that, let me just give you a brief idea about who I am. So my name is Bhaskar Roy. I am a professional in the IT world for last 10 years, and I have done various solution architecting work across the domain of cloud and DevOps for multinational companies and global businesses. With my experience, I have understood that today it is a very important time in the history of IT where people have to get into the mode of controlling the automation, or otherwise they might need to lose their job. So DevOps is the name of that automation. If you know DevOps, you're going to be able to control the world of IT through automation. Either you're in the seat of the driver or you're simply not having any seat. So let's see how we can get you a place in this new age world, which is being called as DevOps. First of all, let's understand the traditional concept of DevOps, the traditional definition of DevOps. So if you see, it's something around this. It's all about optimizing the time that we take for all the activities that are needed to push a freshly created code to the production server through better synergy between the developer teams and the operational teams, so that the tasks handled by both of these teams are managed better. Basically, what it talks about is that multiple developers are writing a piece of software. They submit their code into a source code management system. Today, very popular one is a Git server. And from there onwards, the operations people's work start. So developers are working together, they create a code. How that synergy works is also somewhat of interest to the DevOps. But after that, there is a whole lot of jobs for the operations people. So whatever they do in order to push this source code to the production server as a live application, that is the main part of DevOps's target. I mean, obviously there are some elements about the developers working together, but that's covered under the agile. DevOps specifically focuses on the part that operations people are trying to do with the source code that the developer has provided. Why does it have in the name of DevOps a part which says dev? Because there is a bit of a back and forth that happens between the operations people and the developer during this whole process. Like, people do testing of the source code and sometimes it fails, so it goes back to developer and again comes back to operations people. So that back and forth is why this process would be having the dev component of it into the saying of DevOps, because we want to collaborate between the developers and the operations people. Another kind of a twist to this is that nowadays a lot of coding effort goes into operational management. So nowadays people generally refer to DevOps because it's like operations people who are kind of developers, who are kind of developing automation scripts. Now, what kind of automation scripts are we talking about? So anything that you do in between taking the source code to releasing into production as a live application, automate every bits and parts of it. That's what DevOps is all about. So let me give you a hint of what kind of things are needed for getting an application up and running. You need to have some kind of a virtual machine configuration done, some kind of a platform where your operating system will be available. And once the operating system is available, operating system also needs to be configured. Some services needs to be configured, some packages needs to be installed. So that needs to be done. Then there is a middleware part. So where the application doesn't run by itself, it needs a Java runtime environment or it needs a database. So that middleware configuration is there. So all of these configurations that you do at operating system level, middleware level, or even at the virtual machine or basically the machine level, those all things are to be automated. Those all things are to be done through scripts, and that's what DevOps is all about. So VM configuration, when we talk about, it's not always VM. Sometimes we have cloud solutions where we are getting the instances, and sometimes we have the traditional virtualization solutions where we're getting the VMs. And nowadays, another popular mechanism to get operating system is actually containerization. You would have heard of Docker. and that's also there. So those kind of things would come into the virtual machine configuration or container configuration automation kind of stuff. And then obviously we have the OS and middleware, the things that runs on top of the operating system once you have either VM or a cloud instance or a container. So there we do the configuration management, and you would have heard of tools like Chef and Puppet that comes in there. Not only that, there is a whole lot of things that you do in order to get the source code converted into an application. So you create an executable out of source code. You have to realize source code is just a text file. It's a let's say a Java file. .java file is basically a text file. You can open it up in a notepad, but that's not the real application that we use, right? We actually use an executable. Like Firefox might have been written in C language, but we don't open up the C language code. We open up the Firefox browser, which has a certain interface that we know. So that's what needs to be done, and this process is called build. And after we build a particular executable, we also thoroughly test it. So there is a whole set of testing that it goes on before you can put things on production. The testing has to be done, and once the testing is done and you're very confident that this application works, then only you put it onto the production. And once you put it to the production, then your job finishes. And this whole process of converting the source code to a executable and then doing thorough testing, then pushing it to the application as a production application, that whole thing is something that we typically call as CI/CD, continuous integration, continuous delivery. And it also has certain other elements like source code management would be done by Git server. There would be monitoring after the application is launched. So all of these different things are there, and together all this cloud virtualization, containerization, configuration management, CI/CD, all of these things you need to know. So DevOps is a vast domain. It's not a very small domain. There is only one set of syllabus that you have to go through. DevOps is a vast domain. You need to know a lot of different things. It's not only about tools, it's about the way of working. Some people call DevOps as a culture. It's a different way of working. It's a way of working where you forget the fact that some days was there when in the past when you used to do things manually. You completely forget that. You have to completely focus on automation, and automation is the world. You have to believe in it. You have to believe in the fact that you are not going to do things by yourself. There is a tool for doing that, and you're just going to instruct the tool to do it. So no Linux admin will be allowed to log into the system to run the commands by themselves. They have to ask a tool, and the tool will go and do the job while the Linux admin just sits on his chair. He never has to go to the data center to fix things. He has to tell a tool, and the tool will go and fix things. So this is a cultural change. So DevOps is vast. It's all about tools, processes, and also it's about a cultural change. It's about a whole transformation of how we used to handle IT. It's sometimes at loggerheads with the ITIL concepts. Sometimes ITIL can be interpreted through the DevOps means. So it's a very interesting world, and I welcome you to join me to this journey where you'll get to understand what DevOps is in a far more in-depth way. We'll go through lots of practicals, we'll go through PPT sessions to understand concepts, and I hope it will be a rewarding experience for you. At Study9, we have built a comprehensive course on DevOps, and it's not an easy thing to do because in DevOps, there is no set one curriculum that can be created, but we have made an effort over here. And we have divided this course into 3 parts: orchestration, configuration, and release automation. In orchestration, we talk about all things like cloud, virtualization, and containerization. So you have Amazon Web Services, which is a cloud, Vagrant, which is a virtual machine automation, Docker, which is a containerization mechanism. We have Kubernetes, which is to run Docker at an enterprise scale, because we are creating a course here that's not for amateurs or that's not for college students. This is for real professionals working in real industry. And I come from a real industry background, and I know how or what all things are required for one person to know in order to really work in an industry environment. We have CloudFormation also covered, which is a coding language of the most popular cloud technology in the market, which is AWS. And then we have Terraform, which is a coding language for all the cloud technologies in the market. So you kind of get it, right? On the orchestration side, this is a quite a thorough 360-degree comprehensive coverage. And that's not all. We have other parts as well in this course. So configuration and monitoring, we're just getting started. uh, Puppet is covered, which is a major configuration tool in the market. Chef is there, which is number one competitor to Puppet. So if, let's say, if Puppet has 40% of market share, then Chef also has almost 40% of market share. So they have a neck to neck fight going on. You need to know both of them. Why you need to both of them? Because in the market there are so many jobs available on Puppet, but also there are so many jobs available on Chef. As a person who is starting a career on DevOps, you might want to go for either of them, because you want to start a career on DevOps, right? It doesn't matter whether you start it on Puppet or you start it on Chef. You don't want to lose out 50% of the jobs just because you didn't care to learn another language. So we cover all the major languages that is out there. And the third one, therefore, is Ansible. Together, if you cover Puppet, Chef, and Ansible, you're covering almost 95% of the market. There is all the jobs that are there in the market for DevOps, you'll be eligible for all of them. But if you don't do any one of these languages, you're going to lose out that particular segment of the market, because people who implement one type of configuration language tool, they don't install the other one, because it's it's all alternative to each other. So people don't exactly have two tools of the same type in the same company, right? So covering all of the languages is very important. And we also cover traditional coding languages in the course as well. Although the traditional coding languages are not always said to be part of DevOps revolution, but we have seen that in the job market there is a demand for traditional programming languages such as Python and Ruby. So we cover that base as well. As you can see, it's the comprehensive course on DevOps. And then we also cover a leading monitoring tool which has been there for 20 years in the market. It's called Nagios, and it has its own coding language. We covered that as well. From the release automation side, we have Git, Jenkins, Maven, Tomcat, Bash shell scripting, Sonatype Nexus repository, and SonarQube code quality analysis. And not only that, even Selenium. If you have a background in release automation, you already know with the list of the tools that we are covering the whole base of release automation. We are covering the whole CI/CD process. Jenkins is a top-notch tool. It's the market's #1 tool for doing CI/CD. Git is a dominant player in the source code management market. Maven is the #1 build tool for the Java market. Tomcat is nowadays extremely popular. Earlier it was Tomcat used to be just a dev environment server, but nowadays Tomcat has bounced back. In the world of microservices, Tomcat is extremely important, and we do cover microservices as well, by the way. As part of orchestration, when we talk about Docker and Kubernetes, we do cover microservices concepts, and then you get to learn Tomcat as well, which is again a very important tool in the microservices world. We understand Bash shell scripting as well, because in a lot of different processes you might need to come around Bash, and that's important for you to know. Sonatype Nexus is a leading tool in the artifact management, which is like I was talking about the whole release process. I was telling you that there is a process where you convert a source code into a executable. So the source code version control happens on Git, and similarly the executable version control happens on Sonatype Nexus. So let's say Firefox is built on top of C language, so the firefox.c files will be stored in Git, whereas firefox.exe application will be stored in Sonatype Nexus. SonarQube is another tool that is used for code quality analysis. It's a static code quality analysis tool, which may not mean much to you right now, but when you get into the course you will understand what is called static code quality analysis. So it's a way to check how good quality code is written by the developers. And then we have the Selenium. Selenium is a very popular tool. It's probably the most important testing tool out there in the market today, most dominant testing tool out there in the market today. It tests live applications. So while SonarQube checks for the code where the application doesn't even exist, it's just a code form, it's just text form. Selenium is for live application. You have got application live up and running on the production server. Selenium is the tool that's gonna go and check and tell you whether that application is properly working or not, whether it has the button in the right place, whether it has certain text in the right place, whether it is behaving in a certain way. If you click on a button, does it behave in a certain way? That's all you can do with Selenium. So we covered a very comprehensive coverage of DevOps in this Study 9 course, and in the upcoming chapters we will gradually get to learn about all of this. There are a few things which are not even mentioned here, like we will also cover the DevOps on Amazon Web Services, things that are done on Amazon, not done anywhere else. We will cover basics of Linux, and there is a lot more, and it will be very, very interesting for you once you start the journey.